Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. So the great Andrew Breitbart had a quote which has always stuck with me, which is that politics is downstream from culture. Okay, so what does that mean? Politics is downstream from culture because there's a lot of people that are trying to change the country by attacking politically. Let's get our candidate in the office. Let's do this. Let's change this law. And while those are good things, don't get me wrong, I also think that they're distracting us from the much bigger issues, which is changing culture and taking control of culture. And if you look at America and you look at the machines that create our culture, these machines have been built and hijacked by communists, right? By wokeists, whatever you want to call it, people that want to destroy America. And what we've also seen is that these culture-making machines have turned their massive cannons on me, the white American. And they've made people in America ashamed to be white, ashamed of our history, ashamed of our heritage. And we have to be fighting back against that. So my guest today is a guy named AJ Rice. So he is actually the person in charge of a pretty important publishing company called Publius PR, right? So a lot of the names, household names that you're familiar with, he's publishing their books and booking their shows and everything. But he's also an author himself, and he's got two great books. And we're talking about, more importantly, his more recent book, which is called The White Privilege Album. Now, it's kind of a funny name, the White Privilege Album, but it's what got me interested in doing the interviews. Is like, I love stuff like this. I love when people take the cultural words you're not supposed to talk about and you poke it, right? And you have fun with it. And that's exactly what he's doing, is he's poking at and having fun with this whole idea that we should be ashamed of this white privilege. And so, folks, I hope you're going to enjoy this. It's not really that offensive an interview, I guess, if you're, some sort of like ultra liberal feminist, what you kind of whatever that is, and you hate these ideas, maybe you'll be offended. But if that's the case, you're probably not watching Man in America. So folks, please enjoy this interview with AJ Rice. So look, if you've ever been frustrated with hearing loss, okay, here.com is exactly where you need to go. So these folks are the real deal. They've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, about 4.9 rating at Consumer Affairs, and over 500,000 people are already loving their super tiny, super powerful German hearing aids. 500,000 people. And the positive reviews just keep on rolling in. So take Jerry, for instance, who's a podcast listener, who wrote in saying that the in-home exam made everything so convenient and his new devices are extremely comfortable compared to his old ones. Or James, who called working with here.com a total win and said it's one of his best investments he's ever made. And the best part is, so with insurance, flexible financing options, and 100% money back guarantee, here.com makes getting great hearing aids super easy. So if you're ready to stop saying what and start hearing the world clearly again, now's the time. So right now at here.com/Seth, you can sign up for an exclusive 45-day no-risk trial, and you'll get a free hearing aid consultation. So folks, you're going to be able to hear the difference yourself. So what are you waiting for? So head over to here.com/Seth. That's HEAR.com/Seth. And again, you get a free consultation. So if you're not sure, if you think that maybe, your hearing is going a little bit off and you're saying, hey, you notice yourself asking, hey, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? It might be a good time to just get your hearing checked out. So again, folks, go to here.com/Seth. Mr. AJ Rice, it is such a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Brother Seth, great to be here. First time. Hope we have some fun here, brother.
I think that we will. I have a feeling that we will. I think we've both got a pretty dry, sarcastic approach, and we find humor in a lot of the dark areas that we're forced to look at these days. So how about let's start with, give us a little bit of background of yourself, Publius, some of your work to help set the stage for our discussion today.
Well, I got into the media by helping a Republican congressman outside of Philadelphia win a special election. This was 20 years ago now, and I was working on Capitol Hill for a short period of time before I was plucked from the river like Moses by Laura Ingraham to essentially, at the time, be just her assistant. She was doing a radio show, most listened to female radio host in the country. This is long before the Fox show. I basically started working there, and I went from being her assistant to being her executive producer in about 9 months. And I then grew the show. We ended up with almost 400 stations. I was her executive producer, traveled the world with her. She's still a friend. She's like my sister. She gave me a blurb for my first book. And then I got sort of shuffled over to the Monica Crowley show. Again, Monica and I hit it off. And these two women, and I was her executive producer for a couple of years. These two women pretty much raised me from a puppy in the media. And I produced quite a bit of shows. I produced shows like this one, mostly radio, but I was involved with some other things with Glenn Beck and John Solomon. And for about a decade now, though, I've been doing this. And what I mean by this is I run Publius PR. That's my day job. And we have all different types of your favorites up there. At this point, I consider Publius the center of the MAGA cinematic universe. You'll recognize names and faces. We've worked with everyone from RFK Jr. to Donald Trump Jr. do their books, do the super PAC. We've worked on campaigns. We were working with Vivek last year, running surrogates for him. As you can see, some of our clients have been to prison. We just got one out of prison recently. That would be Peter Navarro. But look, everyone from Ben Carson to Newt Gingrich. And we don't really use a purity test. I guess there are some people that if they called, it wouldn't work out. But I'm not a big purity test guy. I think purity tests in history sort of fail us. I think history is not very kind on purity tests. And at some point, right around when Trump showed up, I thought to myself, I've been in and out on both. I've produced shows. I've been a fill-in host. I was writing columns. So I decided to put my own book together, mainly because it was one of the things that could set me apart from my competition in the PR world. Because no one wants a coach who doesn't play the game. No one. And, I've worked as a literary agent as well. It's one of the few things I hadn't done yet. Sort of put myself through the pain that I was putting all of my clients through. Why not? Seemed like a novel idea. So that became The Woking Dead, which was my first book. The big hit, number one. Ingram gave me a blurb, Pete Hegseth, Judge Janine, a lot of Monica, Chef Gruel, a lot of my buddies there that are also my clients. And it taught me quite a bit. And while I was promoting it, I started working on the current book, which is the White Privilege album, which is basically a sequel to The Woking Dead. So I'm creating, and look, when I do this, it's sort of a multi-level marketing situation where I have a message. I try to use humor to convey that message. But, one sort of book leads to the other. I mean, I grew up reading a lot of fiction that did this. So I figured I would try to set myself up at some point to be the anti-woke Harry Potter. So you never know if I don't end up in the gulag, maybe there'll be a volume 3. But while I was doing the Woking Dead tour, it dawned on me that wokeism, as I define it, and look, the target-rich environment, there is no unified theory of wokeness. But if you get out your blender, your KitchenAid, throw a little cancel culture in there, a little identity politics, and some political correctness, and there's probably some other nasty ingredients too, that, that's what comes out, is wokeism, is those things. And if you look at it historically, it's just another name for cultural Marxism. And cultural Marxism has been infecting quite a bit. It's not new. It predates World War I. It's been around a while here in the United States. And we could get into the history of that. I would say that, if there is a long march that is taking place, and the economic Marxists knew they couldn't get it done by hanging the capitalists by the rope they manufactured. I think the goal was to infect the institutions. And 100 years ago, it was Broadway, early radio, silent picture industry, public sector unions, Democrat Party, newspapers. Today, Netflix, the NBA, the mainstream media, academia, humanities department, and obviously the big kahuna, which is big tech, right? Big tech kind of acts as the force field for what some of these lunatics are trying to do to us. So, you've got primary colors, get your Roy G. Biv colors inside of wokeism. And with the White Privilege album, I wanted to focus on the racial element of this. Now, I grew up on the playgrounds of Philadelphia. I'm not really afraid of this stuff. Most of my basketball team was black. When I was growing up, I wanted to be Dr. J. I didn't want to be Larry Bird, although I respect Larry Legend. So I'm not, a wilting violet. I'll go right into your face. So, I went through a lot of the sort of racial elements of how wokeism has been weaponized against the culture. Now, I like to have fun. Ingram taught me that. Our show was wild. I became friends with Andrew Breitbart in my 20s. And, he became a fill-in host on our network. He was filling in for Michael Savage and Jerry Doyle and Tammy Bruce at the time. And, I do believe the American people are more concerned with their culture than they are, who's running for dog catcher in Des Moines. Maybe Kamala Harris soon, if all goes if all goes well. I will tell you that my job with the books is to use irreverent humor to illustrate truth. And I got that from Limbaugh. I was a huge fan. He and I have the same birthday. And here's the thing. When you're talking about some of these books, I said that with an apology to the Beatles, if you know Pink Floyd's The Wall, you'll notice that I stole a little bit of ideas from that. That double LP the Beatles put out was just called The Beatles, but its nickname was the White Album. And there's been some things over the years called the White Album. Some left-wing journalists have written a few things, but the subtitle, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. Now, obviously, I'm a troll master flash, and I know, especially on Seth's show here, Man in America, if I'm going to be on here, I need to give a big shout out to the very fine people out there. You know who you are, okay? This was lifted, obviously, and kidnapped from Trump's Charlottesville speech, which really was the foundational hoax for the Trump is a racist lie that has been out there in the media. Now, there's others, Losers and Suckers and IVF and Project 2020, and there's going to be a bloodbath. There's plenty of these, right? But I just can't help myself but to troll the left a little bit, especially because this one has been debunked. And it hasn't been debunked by Seth or Rice. It's been debunked by the left. It's been debunked by Bill Maher, by CBS News, Michael Rappaport. And I put all this in the book, the debunking, and yet it's unbelievable. Now, I didn't hear Tampon Tim do it, but in the two debates with Trump and Biden and Trump and Kamala, the very fine people showed up in both of them. So, this is beyond low information voters. I'm in DC. I work as a publicist for a living. I can tell you, someone, it's really no different than the Crossfire Hurricane, somebody paid for some freaking K Street lobbyist to tell them to continue to go back to these things, right? It's all they've got. It's all they've got. Make people think that Trump was talking about the very fine, white supremacists, right? I live in Virginia. I'm not that far from Charlottesville. They were trying to take down a statue of Robert E. Lee and his horse, Traveler. And although that became a flashpoint, what the book's really about is that you and I knew they were never going to stop tearing stuff down. They were never going to stop with the Civil War generals. They were never going to stop with the Confederacy.
Folks, hold off on purchasing your first order from Balance of Nature because I have some important information you need to hear. If you go to balanceofnature.com to buy their popular fruit and veggie supplements, a discount offer will pop up. It may say 20 or 25% off your first order. Don't click that because if you use my code, you'll get 35% off your first order plus free shipping. So my code is Seth. SETH. Use my code and save big. And here's another bonus. Balance of Nature has a risk-free money-back guarantee. So go ahead and find out for yourself what I already know. There's no other product out there like Balance of Nature when it comes to fruit and veggie supplements. So whether you order online or call them direct, you must use the promo code Seth to get this special offer of 35% and free shipping. So call them at 800-2468-751 and use discount code Seth, or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use discount code Seth to get 35% off.
And if you want, look, if you got a statue of Stonewall Jackson or somebody, and it's on public land, you got to vote to remove it. And there's places it can be sent. Right? You don't need to virtue signal to me. You don't need to do a riot. The dopey mayor gave Black Lives Matter and Antifa a permit to be there. Okay, there were permits given out, right, to all sides, all the very fine people, and there were legitimate people there from the University of Virginia, from the Virginia Historical Society, that were there to protest what was going on. They didn't want it torn down. They wanted it moved to the Civil War Museum of Virginia. Right now, I'm a Yankee. I'm from Philadelphia, as I'm sure you can hear. So, my relatives wore Navy uniforms in the Civil War. I don't have a particular love for what the Confederacy was trying to do. However, it's not about that. I'll tell you what it's about, and it's something I know you talk about all the time. It's about Western civilization. Because after Lee was gone, Grant was going to go, and Andrew Jackson and Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington and Columbus and Churchill and Thatcher and so on, right? And Seth, the statue of Seth somewhere, it's coming down. So they moved on. And it's because the left can't stand Western civilization. And what is Western civilization? Well, I define it as the Greco-Roman Judeo-Christian civilization. Okay, the four legs of the stool going back to antiquity. They hate it. They hate it because it's a winner. That's why they hate it. The most successful civilization in Earth's history. Not all civilizations are created equal. I'm sorry, you might not like that. It's the same reason I can't play on the men's Olympic basketball team. They wouldn't let me this summer. It's not. Uncle Pat used to say it. They didn't like it. Not all cultures are created equal. Pat Buchanan, that was one of his famous lines. And they're just not. They don't like our culture. They think it is a construct of white privilege. And it has to go. It has to go. So at the big level, I'm sort of kidnapping the language from them, using it back against them, because in the book, I'm defending Western civilization quite a bit. The book is 12 chapters. And instead of a table of contents, I call it the 12 months of privilege, where chapter 1 is January, chapter 12 is December, and I go through an entire calendar year defending Halloween, defending Thanksgiving, Columbus Day, which is coming up, Halloween, everything, Christmas, and I make fun of things at Kwanzaa and these other things. So, and it's a wild ride, and it's probably, if you're a left-wing kook, going to trigger you a little bit, because we talk about slavery, we talk about Jackie Robinson, we talk about Nelson Mandela, we talk about Morgan Freeman History Month, which I celebrate instead of Black History Month. I celebrate Morgan Freeman History Month every February, chapter 2. Everyone should do it. And then beyond that, Seth, the second thing the book is about is the middle class. And like what I was talking to you before, what the economic Marxists can't get done, the cultural Marxists will take over. They hate the middle class. I don't care if Kamala, the Jamaican, Canadian, Indian, first this, first, I don't care what she says that she's a member of. The left can't stand the middle class. No one with the policies that they put forth can love the middle class because, as you know, they flood the zone with migrants. You got unchecked. I mean, look, anyone that wants to put the Green New Deal on a populace wants to crush them because, as you know, any place Marxism has thrived, it's always been some dump where that had a royal family or some autocratic regime. It could be the Ho Chi Minh variety, the Kim Il Sung variety, the Mao Zedong variety, the Castro boys, Hugo Chavez, you know, New York City. No, I'm joking. You name it, right? Um, and that's what they want. That's what they want from us. They want us in the Kamala and Tim bread lines, waiting for our turkey on Thanksgiving to be handed out. Oh, government, feed us, because they want to make us all peasants. So they have to crush the middle class. It has to go. Absolutely has to go. And the third thing, which I think you'll appreciate, that has to go. And look, Black Lives Matter told us. It was on their website, right next to their, the sonnets, the love sonnets they were writing for Hamas, right? Is the nuclear family. The nuclear family has to go, not just because they're breeders and their carbon footprints that don't offset DiCaprio's plane, but happy people have more children. They hate that. So the civilization lives on. And look, wokeness, especially trickle down wokeness, is like trickle down misery, right? So for all their talk of joy, joy this and joy that, the reality is they don't want joy. And if you've ever met a cultural Marxist or just come in contact with anyone that has lived under communism or National Socialism, if there's one thing the Democrat Party is going to do when you meet them, it's going to be to suck joy from you. That's what they're here to do. They want us, Seth, they want us all miserable, alone, childless. They'll import the cats from Springfield, Ohio, so they don't get eaten. Bring the cats over to us. We can all put Taylor Swift on, listen to Taylor Swift, and then we can be miserable together. Never to break free from the grievance, committee that we're serving every day because we blame everything on white privilege and we blame everything on toxic masculinity or the patriarchy or any of these other crazy things. And that's what they want. They want to reset us, reset our church, reset our family, reset our diet, reset our politics, our culture. And that is why, in the words of one of the great philosophers, what can be can become unburdened by what has been. That is why, Seth. Because although that sounds like diarrhea of the mouth, it is a just stone cold Marx and Engels great leap forward Marxist statement about, we know what's best for you. We're going to undo all of this. We'll bring Karl Marx into the church. We'll baptize him. We're going to get rid of all these people that tell all the wrong jokes. We'll use a social credit system to judge all of you. You'll all get your little report cards. And the comedians will be in jail. The podcasters will be in jail. That's what they're after. So my job is to mock the hell out of them. I mean, that's what I do in the book. And I try to do it with my presentation. But it is, some of it's gallows humor because it's deathly serious. But they really can't take being made fun of. So, that's why all their comedians sound the same, and why people like Gutfeld, quite frankly, are crushing the Jimmys and the Stevens and the other schmucks that are on late night comedy.
So there's a lot to unpack there, but I love just kind of throwing it back in their face, right? And saying, and this is also part of it too, is, I'm going through this process I think a lot of people are, especially with the risk that our country's in right now. It's like, okay, what is America? Like, who am I and what am I? And what do I stand for? And, a lot of times you don't value something until it's under attack. And if you were to ask me, Seth, say 10 years ago, you ran to, Seth 10 years ago, and you said, Seth, how proud are you to be white? I'd say, well, I'm not really that proud of it. I don't really despise it. I'm just a white guy, right? I'm the kind of whatever. But now at this day and age, it's like, I'm proud to be white. And I'm proud to say that. And it's not a, like, I'm not saying that I'm better than a black guy. It's like, if the black guy, if he's proud to be black, good for you, man. Right. Cause we gotta stand for
Right.
something. Right. So like, I was born and raised in Ohio. So it's like, okay, I have my proud Ohio roots. And what's
Sure.
crazy though, is that, like, you could start any kind of club. You could have a Mexican, club for Mexicans. You could have a black club for the blacks. But if you start a white club for the whites, oh, look out. Look out. Everything is
Sure.
turned against
No,
you.
you're
I mean,
no.
it's such an obvious attack,
But we
actually.
also don't, and obviously the humanities people would say, well, that's because you have power and you're inside the construct, the intersectional construct of white privilege. But I mean, I would surmise that you don't wake up every day and say exactly what you said, though. You don't wake up and say, well, I'm white today there, Gary. Isn't it wonderful? Hi, Susie. Would you like a gin and tonic? I mean, the reality is we don't, conservatives, libertarians, we don't necessarily filter our entire existence through how much melanin we have in our skin, through the identity Benetton ad where they want to put us all in their little freaking Crayola 64 box and put labels on us and packages us up, right? They're obsessed with this stuff. But here's the thing. We we don't have a multicultural country. We have one culture here. It's Western culture. I outlined some of that a minute ago. But we are a multi-ethnic country. And you can come here and participate in Western Civ, the middle class, the nuclear family. Doesn't matter what color you are, if you do it legally, the great experiment is for you. You can come here and participate in it. And I think a lot of groups of people are sick of, sort of being filtered through these wacky prisms of the grievance groups, the identity politics, the social justice warrior nonsense, because you could see it sort of happening nationwide. Um, Look, Donald Trump has made the Republican Party more working class, more multi ethnic. And when you tell me you deserve something because of your skin color or your gender, you have ovaries, you want to run for president, you have ovaries, but you never used them. You never used them, Kamala. You never used them. She couldn't find a husband until she was 50 years old. That sounds like a woman that I want to be married to. Let me tell you. Um, there's an old joke about the United States being a female. Well, never had a female president. So the United States must be a straight woman because they don't want to be married to Hillary. They don't want to be married to Geraldine Ferraro. They don't want to be married even to Sarah Palin. God bless her. And I don't know about Kamala, but we'll see. But that's the thing, is that Trump in particular has brought all these different groups together moving towards him. She is underwater in polling with Muslims in Michigan, with Jews in Pennsylvania, with the Latins in Nevada and Arizona. I mean, you've got these counties along the Rio Grande Valley there between Texas and Mexico that Trump is winning, and they're not exactly filled with Scandinavians. And it's because this great experiment, which we're all a part of, is bigger than all of this. They try to put us in these goofy boxes, right? Um, the nuclear family is not white privilege any more than the middle class is, but they try their damnedest to do this. And you got goofy. I mean, I was watching a video of goofy Ben Stiller, who made a movie putting Robert Downey Jr. in blackface. Uh, Tropic Thunder, brilliant movie. Probably couldn't get made tomorrow. Um, Saying that the reason he's endorsed Kamala is because of her gender and her skin color, and she's Indian, and she can make, she can she she can make a samosa, and she can. I mean, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. It's nuts, right? She likes chickpeas. I'm gonna vote for. I mean, it's crazy. But I mean, this is why obviously, we're not following Ben Stiller into any type of serious battle to save the country. But look, they have power, but we need to make fun of them. You know, um, Let the best joke win. But they are obsessed with identity, and you have to sort of poke fun at it. Now, shows like this uh, people like my clients, we get hunted. Um, if you step out of line, like Chappelle did, make fun of trans people, and Chappelle's by no means Dave Chappelle, the comedian. He's a black guy, Democrat from Washington, D.C. Not exactly, Ben Carson or Thomas Sowell. But if you tell him he can't say something, and he's being honest, and he is very intellectually honest, he's going to say it, and he's going to go after. He's going to not shut up about it. Ricky Gervais, same thing, right? He's coming for you. So Chris Rock told a joke, he got slapped. So that was the fourth wall coming down with the audience. Will Smith became a heckler. He went up and physically assaulted someone because of a joke. Now, someone jumped on stage with a knife, a gun, actually. It wasn't fake, but somebody attacked Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl for making trans jokes, right? And that's totalitarianism. That's what that is. Now, granted, you go all the way back to Shakespeare's theater, people were throwing fruit and vegetables at people on the stage. I mean, it happens. There's always going to be heckler, always. And but when it comes to wokeism, if they can't get you digitally by deplatforming, demonetizing, shadow banning, they may come after you physically, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not just Chappelle. Someone jumped on stage and attacked Lee Zeldin. Look what happened to Salman Rushdie. Okay, attacked 30 years later for a book that was written making fun of Islam, making fun of the Prophet Muhammad. And look, they give out people's names, addresses. Brett Kavanaugh's name and address, Tucker Carlson's name and address. Rand Paul's neighbor broke his ribs. A Bernie Sanders lunatic comes to the baseball game and shoots Steve Scalise. So look, they get violent. The left gets violent when you mock them. It's totalitarianism. There's no difference between anything I just listed and the Taliban shooting those freaking Stinger missiles at those Buddhist statues. It is a woke intifada. And, go through and the creme de la creme, to top it all off, I'll give you all those examples, where here comes the two big ones. Since Lincoln, we've had Lincoln shot, Garfield shot, McKinley shot, Teddy Roosevelt shot, Kennedy shot, Reagan shot, and Trump shot. Only one of those people is a Democrat, the Catholic one. The Catholic one whose brother was also shot and whose nephew was running for president, that wasn't given Secret Service protection for some reason until President Trump was shot. So look, I don't think you need to be Joan or Tucker or Bannon or Seth or, Confucius or Aristotle to say to yourself, wow, there are some opinions out there that you're not allowed to have. And if you try to share them publicly, the digital brown shirts may come after you online, or there's a physical element to it. Because look, we've had, 4 phony indictments, 2 phony impeachments, and 2 assassins on the grassy knoll. One that got a shot off and one that didn't. I mean, we are living in strange times here, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why you have to watch shows like this. You have to. And that's why, I'm proud of my books, but what we do at Publius PR, inserting the wrong kinds of opinions into the public consciousness, with me at the center of it, acting sort of as the sort of train conductor. I love it. I love it because I think we are slowly becoming the majority. And I think we are waking people up, right? Because, and we can get into how and all the other ways wokeism touches things, DI and ESG and so on, in sports and things. But I think, if you talk about America, you tell American stories, and you can change some people. I mean, I do it in this book, the White Privilege album. I talk a lot about sports. Michael Jordan, Jim Brown, Aaron Judge. They all make appearances. Jackie Robinson does as well. And, I talk about, as much as I am trolling people about bringing racial harmony, there are moments in the book where that happens. And I'm not being as much a wise ass as I look right now.
I think sometimes it's fun. It's good to be a wise ass because we have to be able to laugh at this stuff, and that's the reality of it, right? If you pull back the curtain, right, and you look at what's really going on, it's like I'll put my tinfoil hat on, but what I see is a massive global conspiracy to eradicate Western civilization and to eradicate the people and the races that stand for the values of Western civilization. And so like it's serious. It's not just, hey, we're at war with this country and they've been, kind of screwing up our food supplies and they've been poisoning our well. I mean, it's like, okay, that's one thing. Like this is something much bigger that, I think ultimately it's not in my kind of understanding, it's not that they're after just the white people or after the Western civilization. It's just that we're the strong ones that hold things together on this side of the earth. And so once they get rid of all of us, then they're coming for the blacks and the gays and the Mexicans and then it's them. I mean, because look at the world. If their plans are carried out properly, say 30 years from now, there's a billion people left on Earth. Most of them are kind of in prisons or in gulags working or something, and you have this small group of elites that are basically owning and running the world. But while it seems like, okay, their only goal is to get rid of Western civilization or get rid of white people, it's like no, like we're just the first ones in the way, right? And then once they get rid of us, then they're coming for the same group of people that help them get rid of us, and thinking that if we can just tear down the white patriarchy, right? If we can just do that, we're going to have utopia. America's going to be completely utopia until you feel the warm, barrel of a gun, singeing the hair in the back of your head. It's just how it works.
Right. Sure. And it's sometimes more nuanced. They are trying to get into things like termites, tapeworms. It's not just about, for them, the big victory. It's about breaking us. And it's intimately about removing sources of inspiration. Now, Christianity and Judaism have been attacked for a long time. I'm not so much talking about that. That's a whole nother book. But George Washington has to go. Because it inspires too many people. Mark Twain has to go. Shakespeare has to go. Hemingway, Mozart. They have to go because Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, they have to go. You cannot have generations of people looking at role models of the West, whether it's, Constantine or, Winston Churchill. I mean, I've got to think that these are inspirational things. And they see Western civilization as a colonial power. They see Israel as one as well. They think Israel is just this little, matchbox of, white people from Europe that came in and stole the brown people's land. That's how they filter everything through that. And look, what I'm proposing by defending Western civilization and the middle class, the nuclear family, doesn't mean, and saying that we only have one culture, because we do. It doesn't mean the melting pot goes away. It doesn't mean you can't go out with your friends on Cinco de Mayo and do shots of tequila. Go out with rice. I'll take you. DM me. We'll go out on St. Patrick's Day, and we'll have some frothy pints and some Jameson. We'll wake up in New Jersey. It'll be fantastic. Okay, we can do those things. We can go to yoga. We can eat sushi. We can experience all kinds of different types of foods and traditions and things that are brought here. But that having those things doesn't mean we're throwing out the Magna Carta. It doesn't mean the Bill of Rights goes in the wood chipper. We can actually do both things, right? Because it changes us. It changes us. Look, I'm Irish Catholic from Philly. People think corned beef and cabbage is an Irish dish. Now, in a lot of Irish restaurants, sell it as such. People make it as such. They think of St. Patrick's Day as I'm going to have corned beef and cabbage. But the reality is this: go to Ireland, you're not going to find corned beef and cabbage, except maybe in Dublin in some Disneyland Irish restaurant. Corned beef and cabbage came about for the Irish because when the potato famine happens and the Irish start coming across the Atlantic in coffin ships, they are put in the neighborhoods in Boston and Philadelphia, New York and Chicago, Baltimore, with the other undesirable. Now, we predate the Italians getting here. They'll come later and they'll be hated even more because they can't speak English. But when we got here, we're put into these neighborhoods with Jewish people. Well, where do you think we learned and created the corn? Where do you think the corned beef cabbage came from? It came from living side by side with Jewish people in the Northeast of the United States. That's a variation on their dish. And now, on St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick wasn't even Irish himself. It's a whole other story. You know, he was probably Roman, but you know, some of the Italians claim he's Italian, but everyone was Roman then, and it doesn't make them necessarily, you know, Tony Soprano. But I will tell you that is an example of what I'm talking about. That we blend together. You know, you don't allow the natural blending, which is what's American, right? I mean, both my grandfathers were Irish, both my grandmothers were German, Pennsylvania Dutch and German. You know, the natural beauty of that and the talent you get from it does not come about by just redistributing the entire third world, doing Operation Dumbo Drop all over the United States, whether it's Jimmy Carter dumping the Hmong, I love saying it, the Hmong people, and the Mariel boat drop in Florida, and Obama was redistributing Syrians all over the place, and now we got Haitians and you know, Palestinians being redistributed all over the place. That's gonna make the United States into Yugoslavia, right? That is not a good thing. Unchecked immigration, unchecked relocation of the third world. But utopia takes too long. So they got to speed it up. So we got to crush the middle class now, right? We got to do it now. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We're on a clock. We're on a World Economic Forum's clock here. Let's go. We got to speed it up. So that's what they're doing. And, you know, I'm going to you know, make fun of them and point out the absurdity of it all. You know, better men than me are out there, you know, really in the thick of things. But I think, you know, the media in the United States is failing, and we are beating them. It's not just a ratings thing. We are winning arguments, especially in the Trump era, where every conspiracy theory seems to have an expiration date until it becomes true. So, you know, what did Elon say when I bought Twitter? You know, every conspiracy theory that everyone had about Twitter turned out to be true. So, you know, we just got to keep pointing it out. And I know you do that here on this show.
Absolutely. And you know, one thing that I believe wholeheartedly, you know, go back to Breitbart, right, is that politics is downstream from culture. And you know, we can't change politics without changing culture. And that's it's a gross oversimplification, but it's true, right? In many ways, So Taylor Swift coming out here as a cultural icon, she influences a lot of the country, and so I would say though that I feel like up until recently, the past couple of years, that the culture war has been won completely by the left. They've completely, if you look at the power of Netflix and all this stuff, it's this behemoth of an industry that is all controlled. And I don't even like saying the left, because I actually, in a lot of ways, I do feel like the whole left right paradigm is something that is just this distraction, right? It's like,
Sure,
okay, get focused on fighting your neighbor with his Biden sign who wants free healthcare for his dying mother. You know what I mean? I think it's a much more. I look at it as like, okay, who are the social engineers, right? Who are the guys in the
sure.
the big
You are right.
bankers with their monocles, their top hats, looking down at the world and arranging. Okay, we're gonna make them fight these guys. We'll fund both sides of the wars. You know what I mean? But I think
Sure.
that the culture war,
The
though.
monocle.
Yeah, there you go. Like the
I'm
Monopoly man.
imagining what you're saying right there. That's the best. The penguin is the penguin. And
That's true.
you're right though. You're right though. I mean, that's what they do. 100%.
And so my question to you is, and because you're doing it, and actually I'm trying to do it too, right? Because media is in essence part of culture. It's what shapes the cultural discussions. It's what highlights a certain culture and pushes away or ignores other cultural, right? I also used to work in the auction industry, right, in New York City. I had an auction house and was kind of bumping elbows with a lot of folks from Christie's and Sotheby's, right? So that's how they changed the culture, by making this, Basquiat, this guy who's like a drug addict painting skulls sells for $120 million, and this
Sure.
beautiful 17th century chunk of a chapel ceiling goes unsold, right? Because it's all about
Right.
destroying the culture, and that's how they do that. So
Right.
um, how do we effectively fight back? So I'm starting to see more like good comedians that are funny, that aren't just using wokeism. Even some like Bill Barr or Bill Burr, right? Yeah, Bill Burr. Some of
Oh,
his stuff where he
100%. Bill Burr. Yeah, Bill Burr, absolutely. And he's been out there. A lot of those guys from Boston, Leary and Louis C.K., Dane Cook, Bill Burr. I mean, they're blue collar comedians. They're never, and not blue collar like Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy. They're like Northeast, mostly Irish guys. And you know, Gutfeld is showcasing a lot of these people. That's good. Some of them have podcasts. Theo Vaughn and Shane Gillis and some of these guys, right? So the people are going to these podcasts instead of going to the nightly news.
yeah, true.
Um, I mean, I've watched something very interesting go on. Trump is going on all these podcasts,
Yeah, he is.
and he's sitting there. He's sitting there with the bros. It's an amazing thing to watch happen. And you know, Kamala's doing some of it too. And people are critiquing, she should be doing this, she should be doing, but it's interesting where our politicians are going now to try to reach that small little sliver of people that are undecided, right? So, it's what gives Rogan his power for sure. I don't think there's any doubt Rogan's sort of a traditional guy, probably agrees with most conservatives on a lot of stuff. Um, you know, he has not hosted Trump. That's a Rubicon that he's not been willing to cross yet, but I dare I say that may happen. Um, he's had RFK Jr. on and so on. But the alliance there, I guess you have to ask yourself, who do you want to roll with? Do you want to roll with Elon and Tulsi and RFK Jr., who've all been red pilled? Are they, we use the term left, you said it a minute ago, are they people of the left? I think so, but not in the way that we used to think. I mean, they're all former Democrats or current ones. Naomi Wolf's another one, my client. It's one of those things where they move the goalposts on these people. They didn't really move themselves. The goalposts moved, right? What did Reagan used to say? I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me. So it's one of those situations. But what a coalition, with the Ron Paul people and some ex-Bernie people, RFK Jr. people. I mean, I've got to think we're the majority, right? Dick Cheney and his ugly daughter cannot be the majority. Dick Cheney in drag and crying at him and Pencil Neck and the rest of the goons, there's no way they could they could be the majority. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Kamala's standing up there talking about I've got the McCains and the Romneys, and it's just crazy. So I've got to think that we're the true insurrection. Not the one Kinzinger was looking for, but concerned patriots that some of us want to be left alone, and some of us want to preserve the institutions and the history that have made the country great. And that's really what Trump's talking about, and quite frankly, what RFK Jr. is talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because if you look at what that means, it's getting back to our roots. It's celebrating our culture. I remember when Trump put out the 1776 Commission. I was so impressed with that. I still have the little kind of booklet on in my library, right? It's like this is like this was it was exciting. It was like this is what I want to go back to, right? This is why we're going to homeschool our kids. Right? I've got a 4-year-old and a 8-month-old, right? And it's like okay, yeah, full on homeschool. Like here's how you're going to live. It's about rejecting this. Actually, it's about rejecting the woke mind virus. And I want to see from your perspective because in publishing and in book sales, you're seeing data points that show you what is the collective consciousness doing right here in America. What are people thinking? And so, from your perspective, are you seeing that there is this kind of massive awakening of people that a lot of folks are like just kind of waking up from a slumber and saying, "Whoa, like, oh my gosh, like why was I subscribed to Netflix? Like, I don't want to support this. Look at this Lucifer and this. There's two guys kissing over there, and there's a tranny doing something else, and like, so do you? Because I feel like that's
wait. That's not. Are you describing the MSNBC programming, or what are you talking
yeah, I
about?
guess. Yeah,
What
there
are you
you
talking
go.
about there? I mean, yeah, my God. No, you're right. I mean, look, but you have the right to vote with your wallet. I'm not here to censor other people because I don't want to be censored. I don't put out the purity test, but I think the market will decide. And from time to time, you have these anti-woke Waterloo moments. I mean, when Kid Rock lined up all those Bud Lights with his AR-15 and lit them up because Budweiser thought it was a good idea to put the tranny in the bathtub with the Bud Light pounders, that's the market responding. You know, the CEO of Anheuser-Busch got on a freaking plane as fast as he possibly could to get to Kid Rock's house. I mean, so you have situations like that where you just get totally called out. Elon buying Twitter, I don't think we quite understand the gravity of how important that has been because it kind of evened the playing field. And he continues to. It's like having Ben Franklin or Albert Einstein campaigning for you. I've never seen anything like it.
It's a big shift. But voting with our wallets, I do want to pull up just the listing. I'm going to encourage folks to vote with their wallets, and let's get your book up there. Top selling
Beautiful.
list. And though you can get so the main website for this is the right here. It's whiteprivilegealbum.com. That's where they've got all the information. You can pre-order, etc. But the recommendation is to get it through Amazon. As much as we don't want to say
Yeah.
support Jeff Bezos and all that kind of stuff, still it's a venue that allows books like yours to reach a lot of people. And if we get more folks pre-ordering and buying, then it shoves that book higher up in the list and it helps it to reach more people. So Amazon.com, just this search. Actually, I'll put a link in the description below to the exact listing. It's the White Privilege album, and your first book, The Woking Dead, which I think is awesome. It's so funny. How great is that? You can I
Oh
can
yeah.
see that your humor matches up with mine because this is the kind of stuff that gets me excited about about stuff.
It's
So
true.
AJ, as we're wrapping up, I just want to ask if is there any last kind of closing statement or final thoughts you want to give people?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to remind everyone that even though the left is going to try to divide us, or cultural Marxists are going to try to divide us through the identity politics and shouting white privilege here or there, or you know, basically trying to shame us into not speaking out. Just understand this country. This is your country. Okay. Um, no one should look to Washington ever for help. Okay. I don't care if we win the election. The reality is that, like Reagan used to say, the scariest words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. We need to take care of each other. Um, Classic example is the government not responding. The one thing that they're supposed to do and do big is respond to natural disasters in an efficient manner. If they can't do that, respond to that gigantic moment, if they can't get our military out of Afghanistan in a competent fashion, if they can't even get an Obamacare website to run correctly, why would you ever put these people in charge of anything that relates to you and your family? That could be the government school or relying on them to provide for you. Don't do that. It's your country. Try to not be that uptight. I mean, I know it's some serious stuff. I think humor can bring people together. So, go out there, get a copy of the book, White Privilege album. The holidays are coming up. If you've got a blue-haired niece or nephew that you're looking to trigger and convert, tell them it's a book about the Beatles. It's Yoko Ono's biography, and see what they think when you hand it to them.
There you go. And give them some like My Pillow slippers with it.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Well, AJ, it's been great having you on. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I commend anybody who's in the media publishing space because it's something that is so controlled and manipulated, and it's a stronghold, right, of the Marxists that we have to keep. We have to take over it. That's the thing is that I really do believe that most Americans don't buy into this crap. They really don't. It's just that the media and this machine that they have wants us all to think that that's how everyone thinks because we're going to conform to it because, studies show that people will join the group even though the group is actually wrong. They'll still join the group if they think that most people are the group. So we have to be countering that. And so what you're doing is exactly that. So I'll pull up the Amazon listing one more time for folks. Again, Woking Dead and White Privilege album, both on Amazon for, this is just for pre-order. Is that correct right now?
No, they're both out now. I mean,
Oh,
you can
perfect.
the White Privilege album's volume 2, Woking Dead's volume 1. So we just put out a paperback of the Woking Dead. So you could get both of them, at a pretty good price right now and get some stocking stuffers for, your crazy left-wing uncle. So
There you go.
pick up a copy.
Even though you told me before we started recording it, you're going to send me a couple copies of the books, I would say don't do it because I want to go buy them. I'm going to buy them from Amazon because I want to be able to add one more 5-star review, one more purchase to add to that. So
appreciate that.
Absolutely, AJ. That. Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for giving us your time today. And I look forward to catching up with you again, man.
Thank you. You're a patriot. Your audience is as well. Keep fighting, brother.
Absolutely. Will do. Folks, hold off on purchasing your first order from Balance of Nature because I have some important information you need to hear. If you go to balanceofnature.com to buy their popular fruit and veggie supplements, a discount offer will pop up. It may say 20 or 25% off your first order. Don't click that because if you use my code, you'll get 35% off your first order plus free shipping. So my code is SETH. SETH. Use my code and save big. And here's another bonus. Balance of Nature has a risk-free money-back guarantee. So go ahead and find out for yourself what I already know. There's no other product out there like Balance of Nature when it comes to fruit and veggie supplements. So whether you order online or call them direct, you must use the promo code SETH to get this special offer of 35% and free shipping. So call them at 800-2468-751 and use discount code SETH or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use discount code SETH to get 35% off.